probably come a long way for this next issue. So we're going to, if we don't get a motion for this contract now, we're going to pass it over.
Well, Mr. Chair, I would suggest that we poll the board and see if we would like to hear truly a very brief presentation by Mr. Anderson. I'd be willing not to ask him any questions regarding his statement. I think we should set it for an agenda item.
I'm going to disagree with that because, first of all, I think we're getting off the agenda item. It's not. It's not listed to talk about that on our agenda item. That's a total other issue.
Mr. Chairman, the request has been to poll the board on an item. Yeah. I think you're obliged to do so.
Okay, what's the?
Very brief.
Very brief.
What about it not being on the agenda item?
No, it's germane to the discussion.
Well, yeah, it goes to the discussion. And
Okay,
you can poll the
Mr.
board.
Anderson, you want to?
Jim Anderson, retirement administrator. And I think Ms. Klauser has covered most of it. Just wanted to make the board aware. As she described, there's approximately $8.546 million left in the retiree health account that has been accumulated from excess earnings over time. We did some calculations with the new rates that were adopted by the board, and it looks as if we're looking at about 22 months worth of fund balance or balance in that trust that would cover all of health costs for retirees during that period. It's not just for the prescription costs. We're looking at a draw on that account of somewhere in the neighborhood of $391,000 a month for both just regular health care as well as prescription health care as well. So that's where we back into the roughly 22 months. Our sense being, and I know I worked with Human Resources, they invited me into their planning sessions. There was the understanding that we would probably get through the 09-010 fiscal year with a balance in the excess earnings or retiree health account before the 1998 resolution probably kicked into place. The other thing that I'd like to say is that for the current fiscal year, it doesn't look as if we will be posting any additional excess earnings to the retiree health account. I think we're all aware of what's happening in the market right now. Tough to forecast how the market's going to react, so we'll really have to see. And I think updating the board, you talked about receiving updates, updating the board regularly on how the earnings recover, if indeed they do throughout the spring and throughout the 9-10 fiscal year, is important information and certainly critical to your planning on the retiree health care financing. So with that, I know there's been agreed to no questions. I hope that answers or addresses your interests.
Supervisor Brown? I think.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the renewal contract with Medco Health Solutions for claims administration of prescription services for the employee health plan and the retirement health plan within the effective date of the renewal is 1/1/07. And I'd also like to request in this motion that this be put on the agenda for further discussion, a longer session on it by this board in the near future.
Second.
Within 90 days, 120 days. I want to be more specific on the near future.
Near future, I think come back in 60 days. We've got problems. We need to address this now than later.
I would suggest that...
Can we have a second on the motion?
Second, yes, but I would suggest that the direction on the further agenda item be that staff work with Mr. Anderson to bring it back as soon as possible.
I'll agree to that amendment.
As soon as possible is like
within
90 days.
Well, I would hope within 30 days, if feasible.
60 days. Making the motion agree to that. 60 days.
60 days.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if it may help the board members, we would anticipate in roughly the next 60 days to be bringing the actuarial report before the Board of Supervisors, as well as an analysis of the pension earnings an evaluation of that and the whole rate-setting process for the 9-10 fiscal year. So I would recommend that the 60-day time frame would allow us to bundle up into kind of a topical agenda item a number of retirement-related issues.
Great.
Do you agree to that?
Motion
Absolutely.
second agrees. Any members of the public want to speak on this issue? With that, can we vote? Tom, first.
Thank you, Tom Mitchell, Chief Executive Officer. Just for a point of clarification for future motions, when you give us 30 days to respond, it takes us, agenda deadlines normally go 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
So when you give us a 30-day motion, that only gives us 2 weeks to respond in order to hit the agenda deadlines.
That's why we try and think things 60 days or more.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, with that, we can vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Jim. Okay, we're gonna move on to agenda item 7A. Or timed item at 11 o'clock, 7D. Discussion and possible action regarding authorizing Health and Human Service Agency Director, Assistant Director, or designee to provide comment to the State Water Resources Control Board on proposed on-site wastewater treatment system regulations. That's AB 885, sponsoring Department's Health and Human Service Agency. Stacy, can you state your name and you're the...
My name is Stacy Cryer. I'm the Community Health Services Branch Director for Health and Human Services. We're here today to talk about the proposed implementation of AB 885 by the State Water Quality Board. We have serious concerns about the implementation of AB 885 and the costly ramifications it might impose on the residents of our community. So we're here today to give you a brief presentation and summarize some of those concerns, answer any questions that we can for you, and request that we're allowed to make public comment expressing those concerns to the State Water Quality Board. So I'd like to introduce John Morley. He's the Director of Environmental Health, to give a brief presentation.
Fine. I'd like to announce before we start, at the back of the room there are them little pink colored sheets. If you folks want to make comments to this, if you just put your name on that, and thank you.
Mr. Chair, board members, good morning. My name is John Morley, Director of Environmental Health. I'm here today. How's that? I'm here today to provide a brief presentation on AB 885 and the proposed on-site wastewater treatment regulations. There are 9 regional districts in California, each with their own regulations overseeing septic system installation. The regulations are unique to the geology and climate of the given regions. The genesis of AB 885 was in Southern California in the 1990s, where poorly designed septic systems polluted beaches. AB 885 was passed in 2000. Regulations have been written and are currently going through the CEQA process. The intent of AB 885 is to establish uniform statewide minimum standards. The projected implementation date is July 2010. There are a number of groups who have expressed concern over some of the requirements contained in the regulations. Those concerns include the impact on existing parcels. New requirements may prevent some parcels from being developed. An example is the current standard for sizing a leach field. It includes the measure of side walls and width of the trench. The proposed regulation only factors in the bottom of the trench, resulting in the demand for a larger leach field area. We believe the existing, that's okay. We believe the existing parcels should be grandfathered and allowed to meet current regulations. Another concern is wet weather monitoring. Regulations will require continuous 24/7 monitoring for 150 days. Current requirements call for weekly monitoring after 20 inches of rainfall and on 3 occasions within 48 hours of a 1-inch storm event. Designers now use numerous inexpensive monitoring wells to evaluate a site. The mandated switch to more expensive piezometers